Welcome to yet another episode of Round the Clock Frights. My name is Josh, and today we're going to be talking about a horror franchise that is truly a work of art. For real though, guys, the Terrifier movies mean a lot to me. Not just as a horror fan, but as an aspiring filmmaker. And there are so many reasons why this franchise has greatly inspired me. And today, I'm going to be going over all the reasons why I enjoy and appreciate the Terrifier franchise. And guys, if you like what you see here, please subscribe to my channel Round the Clock Frights for more horrific content. Oh, and by the way, if you see me looking down, it's because I took a lot of notes for today's video. And before any of you come after me, I do realize that I'm wearing the wrong clown today, but hey, I mean, us clowns gotta look out for one another. It's a circus out there. So how it all began. So I actually make lists every year for Halloween. You know, I make lists of movies that I really want to watch, and every year I try to include at least one Halloween-themed horror movie. One year I had Trick or Treat, another year I had Trick or Treat, starring the Kiss Man himself, Gene Simmons. But one year I decided to add a film called All Hallows Eve, which I didn't really know anything about. All I knew is that it had a very terrifying looking clown on the cover, and while I can say I didn't necessarily like the movie, I at least appreciated it for what it was. And to be fair, Art the Clown was such a kick-ass horror villain, and he definitely had great potential, and I knew right then and there that if Art the Clown got his own franchise, he could become the next big thing. Cut to 2018, where I started hearing whispers of an indie slasher film that had been shocking audiences, and you know, I even talked to some of my friends in the horror community, and they were saying that the film in question, Terrifier, was really hard to watch. Like, even for people like them, you know, these are hardcore horror fans. I mean, these are the people who, you know, work in the film industry as makeup and visual effects artists, people who create the most disgusting, gruesome effects work imaginable, and they had a hard time stomaching this film, so I knew I had to track down and watch this thing. I mean, what was so terrible and gruesome about it? Well, I did some research, and the first thing I recognized was the character of Art the Clown on the poster. I saw the poster for Terrifier, and I was like, wait a minute, that's the awesome baddie from All Hallows Eve. Like, oh, he finally got his own movie. This is so awesome. And you know, I was really excited to see it because apparently it was the same creator as All Hallows Eve. This gentleman named Damien Leone. He funded this film himself, and it immediately got me more excited. So I discovered Terrifier on Netflix, and I sat down and watched it, and it was indeed pretty brutal. In fact, here's some of my facial expressions I had while watching Terrifier. So yeah, I definitely appreciated Terrifier and how bold it was. It took some serious risks, man. It didn't pull any punches. It showed us things. You know, things that a number of mainstream slasher films wouldn't dare show audiences because it was unrated. It didn't have an official MPAA rating, but it was well beyond an R. I mean, this thing was brutal, and at times it could be a bit uncomfortable to watch. And I know I'm gonna sound like a scared little kid by saying this, but I did have to cover my eyes at a couple of parts. That's how that's how much Terrifier shook me. Now, the story of the Terrifier franchise is a true inspiration to aspiring horror filmmakers like myself. I've wanted to make horror movies all my life. I've made a number of short films, you know, some in high school, some in college, and you know, the director of this film, Damien Leone, he's the one who created the character of Art the Clown. He didn't have a whole lot of credits to his name before making his movies, and he actually started off as a special effects artist. You know, he had some credits to his name, but that's essentially how he got his start in the industry. You know, he, you know, put in his time as a special effects artist, and, you know, he wanted to make Art the Clown the next great slasher villain. He knew he had something really special on his hands. This slasher villain who didn't talk but was really fun to watch. You know, this psychotic mime who would go around just slaughtering people in the most gruesome, creative ways. I mean, it was a terrific idea for a slasher villain, so Damien knew, you know, what he wanted to do. And in 2015, he actually launched an impressive Indiegogo campaign. There was actually a campaign video that was released online. You know, Damien was quoting some of the critics who were praising the character of Art the Clown. you know, after watching All Hallows Eve, and it caught the attention of one individual in particular. a producer named Phil Falcone. He decided to fund Terrifier under the condition that he'd be listed as a producer, and the budget was only $35,000. $35,000, and I wanted to emphasize this because Terrifier has some seriously impressive practical effects. I mean, it's just hugely inspirational to artists like myself. The fact this guy made visual effects look this good with such a meager budget, I mean, I've seen effects work in Hollywood productions that don't look this convincing, and the effects work are part of the reason why these films have earned such a stellar reputation. Audiences want to sit down and see a Terrifier movie that contains amazing practical gore effects, and Terrifier delivered in spades. It was truly amazing, what Damien Leone was able to accomplish with such a small budget. It reminds me of when the filmmakers of the Blair Witch Project went out into the woods and created a horror film with a budget of only $10,000. I mean, it's films like Terrifier that prove that small independent horror productions can still make huge waves. I mean, just huge waves. I mean, everyone in the horror community was talking about this movie when it first came out. So yeah, just deeply inspirational. One of these days, I definitely want to start an Indiegogo campaign of my own because I have some ideas. That I would love to bring to life. So thank you, Damien Leone, for inspiring people like myself, people who haven't necessarily made it big, but are looking to get their start in the business. Terrifier proved that it can be done. So the first film was a smash success, and obviously we were going to get a sequel at some point, but again, Damien wanted to fund the project independently. He wanted to make the sequel on his own terms without any major studios micromanaging him. So he collected the money from various sources, and the result was Terrifier 2, and oh my god, the budget the budget was much more substantial this time around, and it definitely showed because this is a beast of a sequel. It cranked things up to 11, and it just features so much of what I enjoy seeing in slasher flicks. Fantastic, brutal kills, a compelling dynamic between its hero and villain. Lauren Lavera as Sienna, she's a kick-ass hero. She's a final girl for the ages. In the 90s, we had Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, and this day and age, we have Lauren Lavera as Sienna. And, oh my god, and the third act also takes place in an abandoned carnival, and by the way, David Howard Thornton, who portrays the character of Art the Clown, he's gone on record saying that he loves the character of the Joker. In fact, I believe he's played the Joker in some fan films. I might be wrong about that, but I've seen pictures of him dressed up as the character on his social media pages. But, the climax of Terrifier 2, it does remind me of Alan Moore's The Killing Joke. The climax of The Killing Joke did take place in an abandoned carnival, so I'm sure that made David Howard Thornton, feel all giddy inside. The fact that he got to play this psychotic clown who, kills people at this abandoned carnival. Joker parallel, so I'm sure that made him really happy, and you can just tell the entire cast and crew had a blast making Terrifier 2. And I did get the chance to interview one of the stars of this film, the amazing Casey Hartnett, who played the character of Allie in Terrifier 2, and let's just say she's featured in one of the more infamous death scenes in horror history. It's the infamous bedroom scene from Terrifier 2. It's a long, disgusting, drawn-out death scene, and, she told me stories about the making of this film, how encouraging the director Damien Leone was, and how amazing it was to work with the entire cast and crew. Casey was wonderful to talk to, and if you want to see that interview, definitely check it out. It is here on my channel. But yeah, Damien opted to make this sequel independently without having to worry about any Hollywood restrictions, and kudos to him because Terrifier 2, it got a theatrical release. And it grossed over $10 million on a, I think the budget was, I think it was $250,000. I might be wrong about that, but it was much bigger than the first film, I can tell you that. But it was originally meant to play for only one weekend, but it was such a success that the distributors decided to extend its release. It played in theaters longer than it was originally meant to, and I just gotta say, I saw Terrifier 2 in theaters with some hardcore horror fanatics, and it was amazing. We had such a great time watching Terrifier 2 in theaters, and we were all just so inspired. Once again, Terrifier and Terrifier 2, what a what a kick-ass combo. I mean, just, yeah, like I've said, hugely inspirational. Okay, so another reason I really enjoy the Terrifier movies is because they both have a sly sense of humor. I'm gonna admit something here, I'm not a huge gore hound. You know, I've watched disturbing films like Cannibal Holocaust, Hostel, you know, the Poughkeepsie tapes, you know, disturbing, depressing, you know, stuff like that, and I just usually don't enjoy films like that, you know, very much. You know, I can appreciate them on a technical level, but I just don't get much enjoyment out of them. But the reason I do enjoy the Terrifier movies is because, again, they do have a sense of humor. You know, the kills are incredibly gruesome, but they usually have an element of humor to them. I mean, in the first film, you know, after he splits that woman in half, he takes a selfie with her corpse like minutes later, and that's just funny. You know, there's some levity there. And, you know, in Terrifier 2, you know, Allie's mother, you know, rushes into the bedroom, and she sees the mutilated body of her daughter in the bedroom, and, you know, Art just has this look on his face like, it wasn't me. It's, you know, Art the Clown is a funny villain. You know, even though he does the most disgusting, horrific things, he's fun to watch. And, you know, later in Terrifier 2, we see the decapitated head of Casey's mother filled with Halloween candy, and Art the Clown actually hands candy out to trick-or-treaters, you know, at the door. They think he has this prop head, this fake head that's just filled with character, but this fake head that's just filled with candy, but it's not fake. It's an actual decapitated head, and he put candy inside of it. It's just... And as you can tell, I have a very macabre sense of humor, but, you know, these movies were made for people with, you know, very macabre senses of humor. I'd like to compare them to the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland, and hear me out. So there's a room that you wait inside, this room at the Haunted Mansion, where, you know, you see these paintings on the wall, and at first they look like, you know, normal paintings, but then the room changes, and you see scary stuff occurring in the paintings. You know, one girl's like walking this tightrope, and there's this alligator waiting for her underneath, and yeah, I mean, they're, I guess you could say, disturbing, but they're still, you know, funny. That's what the Terrifier movies are like, and, you know, I can also admire the passion and craftsmanship, you know, present. These films are labors of love, ladies and gentlemen, and although they may not be for all tastes, you can't deny the filmmaker's sheer love for horror is present in every single frame. And, you know, not to say the creators behind the films I mentioned earlier weren't passionate as well, but unlike such just dour, depressing films like Cannibal Holocaust, the Terrifier movies aren't meant to be taken too seriously. Fun is the key word. These movies are fun, you know, from start to finish, and that's why I can stomach them. Again, not a gore hound. I don't like too much gore in my horror movies unless they have elements of humor to them, and these movies definitely do. So what lies ahead for the Terrifier franchise? Well, we're getting Terrifier 3 this year, and I couldn't be, you know, more excited. I've watched the trailer, and I dig the fact that it takes place during Christmas. I like that they're shaking things up, but, you know, I've already gone on record saying that. You know, I actually did make a video talking about the quote-unquote controversy surrounding Terrifier 3, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, definitely check out that video as well. You know, but for this film, the budget has increased substantially, you know, because the second film was such a huge hit, so expect to see some amazing stuff in Terrifier 3, and I can't wait to see Santa Art wreak havoc during Christmas. I mean, what? Man. We've seen what he does, you know, we've seen what he can do, you know, on Halloween. What is he going to do during Christmas? I can't wait to see all the Christmas-related killings in Terrifier 3. I'm a sucker for Christmas horror films, so I am just so thoroughly excited. But yes, guys, those are many of the reasons why I enjoy and appreciate the Terrifier movies. Again, you know, they're not for everyone. You know, I've definitely heard some criticisms. You know, people call them, you know, junk food, and you know, only people who are sick and twisted enjoy them, but at the end of the day, they're works of fiction. I mean, they're movies. You know, we horror fans know what to expect with movies like these, so is there really anything to complain about? I don't think so. But yes, guys, thank you so much again for joining me in my discussion of the Terrifier movies. I really, really appreciate all your support, and my channel is about to reach a really big milestone, guys. I'm so close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and I know that may not sound like a lot to, you know, some people, but to me it is. It's something I've been working towards for a long time, and I couldn't have done it without you guys, you know, without my horror family. So thank you so much to everyone in the horror community. I look forward to sharing more videos, you know, with you guys throughout the years, and I hope to see you at Terrifier 3. You know, it's one of my most anticipated horror movies of 2024, so let's meet up and chat about it. Anyway, guys, again, if you like what you saw here today, please subscribe. I've got more stuff in the works, more exciting videos coming your way. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of boils and ghouls. You have all been amazing, and I hope you have a very, very scary day. I hope your day is a work of art. Take care, horror fam. Thank you again.